Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We're learning Mishna Bava Kamma, Parak Zion, Chapter 7, Mishnah Base, Mishnah 2. Okay. Ganav al Pishnayim. Person stole, let's just say an ox, with two witnesses. Two witnesses testify that he stole. The Tavachu Machar al Pihem, and the same witnesses say that he slaughtered or sold the animal. Oy al Pishnayim Acherim. Or it was different witnesses that testified that he stole it or sold it. Misham tashlumi Bava chamisha. In these cases, he pays 4 or 5, again depending on which animal that he had either sold or shechted. Now, the point of the Mishnah has two cases here. He sold it when he stole it. There were the same witnesses for stealing and for selling or shechting. Or the other case was one set of witnesses for stealing, one set of witnesses for what makes them obligated for the 4 or 5-fold payment. So let me read to you here in the notes how they explain what the chiddush, what the Mishnah is teaching us. The Torah states, according to two witnesses, a matter be established. Based on two witnesses, a matter shall be established, which implies the testimony is valid only when it is a complete matter and not a partial matter. Davar v'lei chatzi davar. It cannot be that you're only testifying on half of something. In our Mishnah's case, however, although the second group of witnesses did not testify about the theft, rather they testified only that someone slaughtered or stole or sold an ox or a sheep, which means the problem is like this. Testifying that somebody slaughtered or shechted, right, doesn't mean anything unless you also know that he stole it. And therefore, if you only have witnesses about the stealing, the slaughtering, or the shechting, right, you may say that, well, that's not a complete thing, because their testimony alone doesn't suffice to obligate him to pay 4 or 5. You need to have that other testimony, you need to have that other fact in order to be able to obligate him. So one might think that therefore, in the case where it's a separate group of witnesses to testify that he sold or that he shechted, you might think that's called a chatzi davar, that's called a half a thing. And therefore, the Mishnah teaches us that no, this testimony is considered considered davar, a complete matter, because they testified about everything they could have seen at that time. Okay, they saw what they could see. As long as you are testifying as much as you can, you're testifying as much about, whatever you can testify about, you're testifying about, that's called davar. That's called a matter. And therefore, it's not a problem in this case where all they testify is about the stealing or is about the selling or the shechting. Okay, that's the first part of the Mishnah. Next part of the Mishnah goes through a number of cases. And the point is going to be of the Mishnah, it's going to say at the end, that in all these cases we're about to list, you do pay. You might have thought you wouldn't pay, or there could have been a possibility of thinking or a little bit of a twist of the situation. You wouldn't be paying dalad v'hei, but in all these cases you are. So we're going to go through each one by itself. Okay, Ganav umachar b'Shabbos. If a person stole and he sold something on Shabbos. Any reason why he shouldn't be obligated to pay 4 or 5? Because he did it on Shabbos? He did it on Shabbos. That was another problem with this guy, right? There's any reason to think that on Shabbos that should exempt him from not paying paying the 4 or 5? So the answer is that the Mishnah only mentions the case of Ganav Umachar b'Shabbos, where he stole it and sold it on Shabbos. What if he would have stole it and shechted it on Shabbos? If he would have shechted on Shabbos, the halacha would be differently, because shechting on Shabbos is a malacha daraisa. It is a Torah violation of Shabbos. It can carry the death penalty. And the rule is that if in one act you become liable to 2 punishments, you only get the greater one, not the lesser one. So in the case where he stole and he's let's say he shechted on Shabbos, so the shechting on Shabbos obligates him to pay the 4 or 5, but it's also a desecration of Shabbos, which would give him the death penalty. And therefore, since there are both, the rule is kimle b'derabimine, which means you get the bigger one. And the bigger one exempts you from the smaller one. And therefore, in that case, he would not be paying the the 4 or 5.
Mhm.
However, the case of the Mishnah is he only sold it. You're allowed to sell things on Shabbos? Why not?
Rabbanan.
It's a din Rabbanan, it's an Issa Rabbanan. And therefore, it's not going to exempt you because you did it on Shabbos.
Mhm.
Next, Ganav umachar l'avodah zara. You stole, and then you sold it for the purposes of idolatry. Oh my, right? He went ahead, he sold it to some guy that he knew was going to now use it for avodah zara, for idolatry. Okay? So, again, he is definitely enabling the person, right, to do this, which may in itself be a problem, as they say here. Selling an animal to someone who will sacrifice it to an idol is biblically forbidden because he thereby enables someone to sin. But it does not carry a severe punishment. It's lifnei yiver, you're causing someone to stumble, but there's no lashes, there's no death penalty for it. And therefore, there's no reason that he would be exempt just because he sold it for the purposes of avodah zara. But let's say he shechted it for avodah zara. Again, the Mishnah only says he stole it and he sold it. What if he would have stolen it and shechted it for avodah zara? Which means he's slaughtering the animal for avodah zara. That already is going to be exempt. However, if the thief himself slaughtered the animal as a sacrifice to an idol, he is subject to the death penalty and thus exempt from payment. That's why, again, the Mishnah says he stole it and he sold it for avodah zara. Next case, Gonav v'tavach b'yom kippurim. Right, he stole and shechted it on Yom Kippur. Right? Now, here it says he shechted it. Doesn't just say he sold it. Right? Selling on Yom Kippur is no different than selling on Shabbos.
Okay.
Right? But when you shecht an animal on Yom Kippur, right, you desecrated Yom Kippur, what do you get for that? So the answer is, a person who slaughters an animal on Yom Kippur is punished with kares, a divinely imposed punishment that takes the form of premature death. Now, according to the Tana of our Mishnah, the rule that a severe punishment overrides a lighter one applies only where the severe punishment is of a type imposed by a human court, such as execution, malchus, okay, and not where is a type imposed by heaven. Therefore, although the thief became subject to kares, he must make the 4-fold or 5-fold payment. Okay? So kares is not going to exempt you from the payment. Now, there's another point here that needs to be made. And I don't know why in the notes they didn't bring it down, but the Bartanura brings it down. Now, hold on. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read you the Bartanura. In the case of Tavach B'Yom Kippurim, Shein Zedoino Yel Kares. If you did it intentionally, all you get is kares. Now, there's another problem. The halacha is that in a case of if you do it and purposely on Kippur, you get kares, right? But the halacha is also that if a person does a kares and they did it unintentionally, or the person did a kares, right, they get malchus. They get lashes for it. And if you're getting lashes, the lashes should exempt you. So it says the Bartanura, Kagoin Deloy Asrube, Veloy Lucky. They didn't warn him, and therefore doesn't get malchus. If you're going to get any kind of a punishment based, then you got to be warned beforehand. So in this case, if they didn't warn him, then, although potentially it carries a lashes punishment to it, but you're not going to get it. And therefore, because you're not going to get it, that's not going to, so the mere fact that you could have gotten it is not going to exempt you. The rule is, the Kaimalan called Chayve Malki Yeshegigim, Chayve Metashlumin. All those that would have been obligated or liable for lashes, but they did it unintentionally, right? And therefore, you don't get lashes, they're still going to have to pay. Avo Chayve Mises Bezdin, let's say something that could carry the capital punishment, Mises Bezdin. Afilu Sheyigim, even if they did it unintentionally, which means then they're not going to get the punishment. Nonetheless, they'll still be exempt from payment. So that's really the whole. This is getting into the whole discussion about the rules of Kimle B'Rabbi Minei, when we say that the more severe punishment is going to exempt you. So so the truth is that if you were to be receiving lashes from the Beis Din, that would also exempt him from paying. The case of the Mishna therefore has to be that he's not receiving lashes because he wasn't warned. He is going to get kares because he did it intentionally, and even though he's getting karis does not exempt you from payment, and he's not getting malchus, not getting lashes because he wasn't warned. Meaning, even if you're not warned, you can still get karis. Yeah. But without being warned, you're not going to get either capital punishment or lashes. And therefore, in this case, he's not getting lashes because he didn't get a warning. And therefore, the mere fact that you did something that could carry lashes does not exempt you from payment. While if you did something that could carry the punishment of death, even if you're not getting that punishment, you would still be exempt. Okay, to be continued.
All right.
Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good Shabbos.